We're going to talk about New Alexandria. I realize I don't have my glasses on. There is a lot to say about New Alex, but inasmuch as I'm only doing a survey of local history, I don't want to say a whole lot. I don't want to say too much to get boring here. I do get boring easy enough. But what I want to do is just have enough that you'll be able to get a sense of what happened there. Actually, New Alex is a very old place. There was settlement there before the Revolution. One of the first people to settle out there was a guy named Bulbridge, William Bulbridge. And he established what's called a tomahawk claim, which means he just simply went around the area that he wanted and, put some niches in trees. However, he was out there illegally. At the time, the governors of Pennsylvania named Penn, they were trying to establish peace with the Indians, so they made a demarcation line going north and south, and settlers were not supposed to be out to the west of that line. That line went through what is now Ligonier. And he was settled there, and he did get along with the Indians for a while. But I think what happened, they realized that he was taking their land, and he managed to get himself killed by Indians. And his brother came and settled the, what we'd call a tomahawk claim. He had no real rights to the land. But his brother Thomas came out. The claim was empty after William Burbridge was killed by an Indian. And his brother Thomas came out from Cumberland County and settled the tomahawk claim that William had made. He had no actual legal claim to the land, but in 1769, the state of Pennsylvania opened a land office. And past that point, a person could establish a claim. So Thomas established a claim with the Pennsylvania Land Office. And I should probably mention something about how you establish a claim. It was you had to have, first of all, a warrant, and then a survey, and then a patent. But he at least had a warrant for the land, which is not a firm claim, but it's the beginning of one. Once you have a warrant, and then you have the money to have a survey done, a surveyor is sent out by the state, and a survey is done of the property you want, and then that survey is returned, and then if the state agrees, then they grant you a patent for the tract. And at that point, you have a good firm claim. But Thomas Bulbridge, once he had a warrant, didn't go through the process of getting it surveyed and getting a patent on it. What he did was simply, he sold the land that he had warranted in two parcels. One went to Samuel Craig, who died in the Revolution, and his children took over. The other one went to Arthur Denniston, D-E-N-N-I-S-T-O-N, Denniston. Actually, we can talk about Arthur Denniston and his son Alexander as the first real beginners, the people who had the beginnings of the town. Arthur Denniston had a mill there, both a grist mill and sawmill. He was also the first person to have a store, and he encouraged people to move there and sold them property. A lot of things happened. With the opening of the land office, a lot of settlers came, which means the Indians were very, very unhappy because there were more settlers than they wanted to have around. And at that time, it was still before the Revolution, about 1774, the people around there got a petition together to the Penns, to the governors, to send out some help. And I can read you just a little bit. The petition was asking for protection against the Indians. And it was signed by John Shields, Arthur Denniston, John Denniston, Samuel Craig, Alexander Craig, Thomas Baldridge, etc. This just gives you an idea of the people who were there, some of the people who were there before the Revolution. After the Revolution, it came about that another of Arthur Denniston's sons, he had about 4 sons out there, John, William, Arthur, and Archibald. Excuse me, that should be Alexander instead of Arthur. Alexander, after the Revolution, purchased his father's, the share that Arthur had, that he had bought from the first person who was there, Thomas Baldridge, who had established a claim with Pennsylvania. He had established a warrant, and he sold part of that to Arthur. Now, if we're not getting too involved here, I'll just say that Alexander Denniston, who bought his father's share, went bankrupt because he developed this town. He was advertising it in 1793, and it was a pretty much well-established affair because he went to the trouble of getting the place patented and laying out a town in a more or less professional manner. But as I said, his project didn't go across because he simply went broke. He declared bankruptcy. And a person who has studied New Alex was able to tell me that if not for a couple fellows named Robinson and Johnson, probably New Alexandria would have probably just fizzled out and been forgotten. But those 2 guys managed to resurrect the situation, and it was patented by one of them, Robinson, eventually. He claimed the patent, he bought it, and the story goes on from there. In 1834 it was incorporated, and I'm going to show you some pictures here.
We are looking at an old map of the county, and I want to try to show you. This is New Alex right here, right next to Shieldsburg, which is just about as old as New Alex. This green line I put in here is the Loyalhanna River, or creek. But it was, for the Native Americans, and even after that for the early settlers, it was an important transportation route. And incidentally, Ligonier, which is out here, and New Alexandria, which is in here, received their status as an incorporated borough, political entities, on the same day by the same legislative act in 1834. They became boroughs. This refers back to the early period when claims were just being established. This is the Loyalhanna River going by, which was an Indian name. It was an Indian name that meant middle stream. The Indians were very important for the beginnings of this area. This green area is the area where New Alexandria started out. Alexander Denniston got this claim from his father, and it really was the beginnings of the town. This was John Denniston's claim over here, another of the sons of Arthur Denniston. This is aerial view from 1939, looking down from the air, from an airplane. The blue line I put here shows the Loyalhanna coming through. The green line was the early road coming through. It was the old Frankstown Trail. It became the Northern Road. It became the William Penn Highway. And it's now Route 22, which is realigned just a bit north of here. The red line, this was railroad. Surprisingly, there was a New Alexandria branch of the Pennsylvania Railroad. That happened when coal mines became a factor. And right around this area in here, there was a railroad station, the New Alexandria Railroad Station. And that's a picture of it. That's another picture of the New Alex Railroad Station. I did this to maybe simplify things a little bit. You can see the town of New Alex over here, the Loyal Hannah going by. These red lines are the railroad when it was there. The green lines are, of course, the roads. Shieldsburg was there very early. John Shields patented that property. He was there before the Revolution. And we move on. Just showing the juxtaposition of Shieldsburg and New Alexandria. New Alexandria really had its origin as a mill. Arthur Denniston started a mill there and started a very primitive kind of colony. And his son, Alexander, bought that claim from him and developed it in a more extensive form. And that's looking down from the air. See New Alex, Route 22 going by. And you can see the outline of the Loyal Hannah. I think that's enough for right now. And we'll see you again.